Hello, my name is Robert Brown, and today I'm going to be reading You Read to Me, I'll Read to You by John Ciardi. This is a book of poetry. So the first poem is called About the Teeth of Sharks. The thing about a shark is teeth, one row above, one row beneath. Now take a close look, do you find it has another row behind? Still closer here, I'll hold your hat. Has it a third row behind that? Now look in and look out. Oh my, I'll never know now. Well, goodbye. This next one's called I Wouldn't. There's a house, there's a mouse house in the hall wall with a small door by the hall floor, where the fat cat sits all day, sits that way all day every day, just to say, come out and play. To the nice mice in the mouse house in the hall wall with the small door by the hall floor. And do they come out and play when the fat cat asks them to? Well, would you? This one's called Arvin Marvin Lillisby Fitch. Arvin Marvin Lillisby Fitch rode a broomstick like a witch, out the window over the trees, above the hills across two seas, and up on a wild moonbeam, till he came to the other side of his dream, when he bumped his head a terrible thump on the top of the dark and fell kerflump down, 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 like a piece of lead, till he landed, thud, in his very own bed. He didn't cry, he didn't scream, he simply said, when next I dream, it seems to me it might be wise to keep my dreams a smaller size. So saying, he went back to sleep, and dreamed about such things as sheep, and birthday parties, and buttercups, and toothpaste tubes, and spotted pups. Good proper dreams, and none so tall that he ran any risk of a fall. Arvin's dreams were beautiful, but perhaps a little dull. In fact, but for the birthday cake, he might as well have stayed awake. And in his sleep I heard him sigh, it was more fun when I dreamed high. This one's short, it's called Wouldn't You? If I could go as high and low as the wind, as the wind, as the wind can blow, I'd go. This one's called Mind You Now. Never stroll away from camp without a brush, a comb, a compass, and a postage stamp to mail yourself back home. Don't go off to Oregon without at least one shoe, or you may get a blister on your toe, or even two. Don't go past the Golden Gate without a dinner pail, a pillow and your head on straight, and a ship in which to sail. Or long before you reach the land, you may find that you will get hungry, sleepy, sunburned, and both your feet extremely wet. This one's called What Night Would It Be? It's kind of Halloween. If the moon shines on the black pines, and an owl flies, and a ghost cries, and the hairs rise on the back, on the back, on the back of your neck, if you look quick at the moon slick on the black air, and what goes there, rides a broomstick, and if things pick at the back, at the back, at the back of your neck, would you know then, by the small men with the lit grins and with no chins, by the owl's hoo and the ghost's boo, by the tom cat and the black bat on the night air and the things there, by the thing, by the thing, by the dark thing there, yes you do, know the thing I mean, that it's now, that it's now, that it's Halloween. This one's called Mummy Slept Late and Daddy Fixed Breakfast. Daddy fixed the breakfast, he made us each a waffle. It looked like gravel pudding, it tasted something awful. Ha ha, he said, I'll try again. This time I'll get it right. But what I got was in between bituminous and anthracite. A little too well done. Oh well, I'll have to start all over. That time what landed on my plate looked like a manhole cover. I tried to cut it with a fork, the fork gave off a spark. I tried a knife and twisted it into a question mark. I tried it with a hacksaw, I tried it with a torch. It didn't even make a dent, it didn't even scorch. The next time Dad gets breakfast, when Mommy's sleeping late, I think I'll skip the waffles. I'd sooner eat the plate. This one's called Little Bits. Will you have some pie? Said Jane. Said I. Well, just a little, just a bit. But I found when I had eaten it that just one little bit wouldn't do. So I told Jane to make it two. Then, was I happy with what I got? Well, little bits can't make a lot, for little bits are small, you see. So I told Jane to make it three. Three little bits are not much more than two, so I said, make it four. And I ate them up, then asked for five, then six, till Jane said, sakes alive! Here are two more, and that makes eight. If you don't stop, you'll eat the plate. 8 little bits, I said, are fine, but would you care to make it 9? Said Jane, I'd make it 44, but, sad to say, there are no more. By little bit and little bit you've eaten all there was of it. I know that little bits are small, but a lot of little bits is all, and little by little, you see, gets down to none at all for me. That's why I hope that when I bake another pie you will just take one great big fat thick lot of it, and let me have a little bit. This one's called About Jimmy James. Jimmy Jane, Jimmy James, when he was 3, tried to run away to sea. He got his feet wet in the foam, had to turn and go back home. He tried to run away once more, to join the army when he was 4. Alas, the general made him pack his bubble gum and go right back. At 5, he tried to catch a train, but gave it up because of rain. At 6 and 7 he tried again, but got a cinder in his eye, and had to run back home to cry. At 8 he kicked up such a fuss, his parents put him on a bus, with 18 cents a ball of twine, and transfers to another line. They went home feeling rather fine. But Jimmy came back home at 9. His father groaned, his mother sighed, his sister just sat down and cried. Still Jimmy wasn't satisfied. At 10, to everyone's delight, he stole out of the house one night, and this time ran away for good, taking the short cut through the wood. That's what he did, but sad to say, he met a tiger on the way. Though in justice I must add, the tiger acted rather glad. What Jimmy felt is not quite clear. It was a little hard to hear just what he had to say because, when talking past a tiger's jaws, one's best remarks may be cut off by a yawn or sneeze or cough, and the whole conversation stops when the tiger licks his chops. This one's called The Wise Hen. A fox and a hen went out one day. They met somewhere along the way. Said the fox, I am happy we two met. Just look at that cloud, you're going to get wet. If you stay out here, that's plain to see. I beg you to come along home with me. The hen looked up at that cloud in the sky and said, it is true, I like to be dry. But as far as going home with you, you are kind, dear sir, to ask me to, and I want to say I'm glad we met. But if you don't mind, I'll just get wet, and then get dry as best I can. So good day to you, sir. And away she ran. This one's called A Cool Drink on a Hot Day. The hoo-ha and the rinky-dink and the automatic chug were sitting around in a fog, I think, mixing chocolate mud and lemon ink to make themselves a good cool drink inside a cider jug. They had tons and tons and tons of ice and plenty of mud, do you see? But the ink ran low, and once or twice the rinky-dink stopped to ask for advice from the automatic chug. Use spice if we're out of ink, said he. There's pepper and mustard and garlic too, and plenty of dynamite dust, and some rocket fuel if that won't do. All I can say is, it's up to you. Or, if you're desperate, ask the who. Ask, said the who, if you must. Well then, I must, said the rinky-dink. Ha, said the who, you're a fool. Why should you bother to ask what I think? I never did care for lemon ink. The one thing to think about mixing a drink is simply to make it cool. If you can't make it cool, don't stand there and bawl, said the hoo-ha, nibbling his mug. Your tears are too salty, just look at them fall. Well, if you insist, I suggest that you call for some worthless advice from the best of us all, which, such as it is the chug. But the chug, though he spoke, had nothing to say, except, my, the fog's getting thick. I really believe that's enough for today. What I suggest is you throw it away. Besides, if we drink it, I half think we may discover the stuff makes us sick. So the Chug and the Who and the Rinky Dink, as nearly as I recall, had little to eat and nothing to drink. They would have gone home rather thirsty, I think, except that the fog had grown darker than ink, and they couldn't go home at all. That's the picture for it. The next one is called One Day. I lay in the grass and looked at the sky. My, how the clouds were running by! They were big as a house, they were big as a hill. But they all ran by as still, till the wind blew into the biggest cloud. The cloud grew black. The cloud grew loud. The cloud lit up with a mile-long flash. Then all the top of the sky went crash. And then with a hiss as loud as a jet, the water came down like strings of wet. Did I say strings? It was more like rocks. It filled my shoes, it wet my socks. I ran for home. The whole cloud shook with a crash bang bang, and a big bright hook ripped out from the sky. And then a brook began to run from the end of my nose to my chin to my neck right down to my toes. I ran and I ran, but I couldn't begin to run as fast as my nose and chin. I ran, oh, I ran, and I forget when I got home, but I know how wet. This one's called All About Boys and Girls. I know all about boys, I do, and I know all about little girls too. I know what they eat, I know what they drink, I know what they like, I know what they think. And so I'm writing this to say, don't let children out to play. It makes them sad. They'd rather go to school or to the dentist-o. I know they're bashful about saying how much it hurts to be out playing. When they go to school and spell, and mind their manners, they won't tell how tired they are of games and toys. But I know girls, and I know boys. They like to sweep floors, chop the wood, and practice being very good. They'd rather sit and study hard than waste the whole day in the yard. What good is fun and making noise? That's not for girls, that's not for boys. This one is called Sometimes I Feel This Way. I have one head that wants to be good, and one that wants to be bad. And always, as soon as I get up, one of my heads is sad. Be bad, says one head. Don't you know? It's fun to be bad. Be as bad as you like. Put sand in your brother's shoe, that's fun. Put gum on the seat of your sister's bike. What fun is that? Says my other head. Why not go down before the rest, and set things out for breakfast? My, that would please mother. Be good, that's best. What? Better than putting frogs in the sink, or salt in the teapot? Have some fun. Be bad, be good and bad. You know it is good to be bad, says one. Is it good to make sister and brother sad? And mother and daddy? And when you do, is it good to get spanked? Is it good to cry? No, no, be good, that's best, says two. So one by one they say what they say, and what they say is, be good, be bad. And if one is happy, that makes two cry, and if two is happy, that makes one sad. Some day maybe, when I grow up, I shall wake and find that I have just one, the happy head. But which will it be? I wish I knew. They are both some fun. This one is called The Journey. I went through a forest without a tree, by a river that was dry. I came to a shore without a sea. I hurried right on by. I came to a town that had no street, no houses and no stores, and no one you would care to meet, not in nor out of doors. I spoke to a woman who had no name. How do you do? Said I. I wish you, sir, the very same, was all she would reply. Is there any to speak to here? No one to speak of, said she. But why not try Minnie McGinnis, my dear? The which, of course, is me. I asked her a question that had no end. She answered without a start. You had best ask Minnie McGinnis, my friend. She has a kindly heart. She gave me directions that made no sense. It came to where I was not. I passed through a gate built in no fence to a house without a lot. I entered the house that could not be. A draught that caused no stir rustled a curtain I could not see. The curtain became a blur. And there stood no one at all unless it was Minnie McGinnis, and she, all done up in her wedding dress, with a groom that, of course, was me. This one's called The Lighthouse Keeper's White Mouse. As I rode out to the lighthouse for a cup of tea one day, I came on a very wet white mouse out swimming in the bay. "If you are here for the lighthouse," said he, "I'm glad we met. I'm the lighthouse keeper's white mouse, and I fear I'm getting wet. Oh, lighthouse keeper's white mouse, I am rowing out for tea with the keeper in his lighthouse. Let me pull you in with me." So I gave an oar to the white mouse, and I pulled on the other, and we all had tea at the lighthouse with the keeper and his mother. This one was called Chang McTang McQuarter Cat. Chang McTang McQuarter Cat is one part this and one part that. One part is yowl, one part is purr, one part is scratch, one part is fur. One part, maybe even two, is how he sits and stares right through you and you and you and you, and when you feel Chang Cat stare, you wonder if you're really there. Chang McTang McQuarter Cat is one part this and 10 parts that. He's one part saint and 2 parts sin, one part yawn and 3 parts grin, one part sleepy, 4 parts lightning, one part cuddly, 5 parts frightening, one part snarl and 6 parts play, one part is how he goes away. Inside himself, somewhere miles back, behind his eyes, somewhere as black and green and yellow as the night a jungle makes in full moonlight. Chang McTang McQuarter Cat is one part this and 20 that. One part is statue, one part tricks, one part or 6 or 36. One part, or 12 or 63, is Chang McTang belongs to me. Don't ask how many parts is that? Addition's nothing to a cat. If you knew Chang, then you'd know this. He's one part everything there is. This one is called My Cat, Mrs. Lickachin. This one. Some of the cats I know about spend a little time in and a lot of time out, or a lot of time out and a little time in. But my cat, Mrs. Lickachin, never knows where she wants to be. If I let her in, she looks at me and begs to sing that's that she wants to go out. Oh, let me try this again. If I let her in, she looks at me and begins to sing that she wants to go out. So I open the door and she looks about and begins to sing, "Please let me in." Poor silly Mrs. Lickachin. The thing about cats, as you may find, is that no one knows what they have in mind, and I'll tell you something about that. No one knows it less than my cat. This one's called A Sad Song. I had 2 eels once that I taught to make themselves a true love knot. But one would slip and one would slide, and the knot would come untied. No matter that I tried and tried, no matter even that I cried, the knot would always come untied. Eels, perhaps, are poor at tying knots, or knots are not worth trying. I tried to be patient. I tried by patient scholarship to teach my eels the proper grip, but one would slide and one would slip, or one would slip and one would slide, and the knot would always come untied. No matter that I tried and tried, no matter even that I cried, the knot would always come untied. This one is called A Sea Song. There was a man out your way who took a ship to sea. He set out, I'm told, for Norway, packed full of TNT. A fog blew up, he lost his head, with his hat on, so they say. "Oh dear, I cannot find," he said, "my hat, nor head, nor way." He lost his way, his hat, he lost his way, his head, his hat, and hit a rock off Finland. The TNT blew up at that, with a bang heard 10 miles inland. He lost his way, his head, his hat. What more is there to say? Don't go to sea with TNT, or your hat may blow away. This one is called How to Tell a Tiger. Perhaps who knows tigers? Oh, let me try again. People who know tigers very, very well all agree that tigers are not hard to tell. The way to tell a tiger is, with lots of room to spare, don't try telling them up close, or we may not find you there. This one is called My Horse, Jack. My horse, Jack, ran off to sea. In 10 years he came back to me with a smell of salt and a smell of tar, and three little seahorses swimming in a jar. He ate my oats and he ate my hay, and he did no work, and all he'd say Was, I met my love when the sea was blue. I loved her, she loved me true. I lost my love when the sea was black. She swam away and never swam back. So I tucked my babies into a jar, and here I am, and here they are. And he ate my oats, and he ate my hay, and he did no work, and that's all he'd say. This one has four parts. It's called A Warning About Bears, More About Bears, Still More About Bears, and Last Word About Bears. A warning about bears. Some bears are fierce, and most grow fiercer when anyone bites off their ears, sir. With bears it's best to be polite, and a bit distant, that's all right. But please, when meeting bears, don't bite. More about bears. Some bears are fierce and some are fiercer. Few bears, I rather hope, are near, sir. From what I know of bears, they are better few and better far. Still more about bears. The fiercest bear of all is very, a good thing too, imaginary. I say a good thing for, my dear, if he were real he might be here. The last word about bears. I met few bears and few met me, but still it's my belief that meeting bears, the thing to be, is brief. This one's called At the Farm. What would you say if I said I saw a hen on the pond and a duck in the straw? I think I would say you had best go back and see if that hen can say quack quack. When that is done, you might try your luck at asking that duck to say cluck cluck. This one is called Dan Dunder. Dan Dunder is a blunder. What makes Dan so loud, I wonder? If I knew how to be that loud, I think I'd look for a big black cloud and get a job with it as thunder. This one is called How the Frightful Child Grew Better. Three tall frowns, in caps and gowns, were strolling south to Dover. Three fat grins, with double chins, bumped them and knocked them over. Two hard looks, like iron hooks, were glaring at the sky. The sun broke through a cloud and blew a dazzle in their eye. A frightful child was running wild, and screamed all day long. Some parents came, you guess their name, and told him it was wrong. They told him, and they told him, and they told him, and they told him. Said parent one, when it was done, it does no good to scold him. Said parent two, agree, will you please spank? He needs it badly. Said parent one, dear wife, dear son, I'm at your service gladly. He raised his hand, he raised it, and he spanked him, as above. Said one, said two, dear son, may you accept this proof of love? That frightful child grew sweet and mild, and made them glad they'd got him. Boys may seem bad, but a good dad can prove they're good at bottom. This one is called What Do You Think His Daddy Did? Not in all of time, I think, has there been such a do, as there was the day I spilled the ink, the red ink, into my daddy's shoe. The shoe was white, the ink was red, but not as red as my daddy got when he looked at me, and what he said was a little loud and a little hot. No, not as loud and not as hot as a gun going off with a boom boom boom, but all the same he said a lot before he sent me to my room. I am here in my room, and I can't forget what daddy said, not a word of it. Forget? My goodness, no, not yet. So far I still can't sit. This one is called What Did You Learn at the Zoo? What did you learn at the zoo? Monkeys look like you. Some are bald and some have curls, but monkeys look like boys and girls. Some are quiet and some make noise. but all of them look like girls and boys. What did you learn at the zoo? Oh, much the same as you. Gorillas are good, gorillas are bad, but all of them look a lot like Dad. Some do one thing, some another, but all of them scream a lot like Mother. What did we learn at the zoo? Just what we wanted to. That it's fun to tease if you make a rhyme. That it's fun to tease if you make it rhyme, though you mustn't do it all the time. That kangaroos hop and monkeys climb, and that a bottle of lemon and lime is a very good way to spend a dime, and so is a bag of peanuts. This one is called Tell Him to Go Home. Billy came to see us. All he did was sing. All he had to sing about was any old thing. He sang about a mousetrap that sang about a mouse that went to sea when it was 3 and sailed around the house. He sang about a cowboy that sang about a cow that sang all day about the hay it smelled up in the mow. He sang about a scarecrow that sang about the scare it got one night in the pale moonlight when it woke to find you there. He sang about a sheepdog that sang about a sheep that sang a song that was so long it sang itself to sleep. Now Billy sleeps at our house, all he does is snore. All he has to snore about is what he sang before. He snores that it is night time, he snores that it is day. I wish he'd snore a little more and snore himself away. This one is called The Bird Brain Song. Bird Brain took a train from Maine and High to High and Maine. He paid his fare, got right on there, then got right off again, singing, "A dollar for a stick of gum, a dollar for another. I paid a dime for the right time and gave it to my mother." Bird brain, bird brain, bird brain, bird took a train from second to third. He rode a block, then took a walk, and now he's back, or so I've heard, singing, "A dollar for a lollipop, $2 for the stick. I paid the rent with my last cent, and now I'm old and sick. My money's gone, I'm all alone, and now what shall I do? I'll sit and cry and hope that I may borrow some from you." This one is called A Short Checklist of Things to Think About Before Being Born. The thing you should think about when you go to the bother of being born is picking out a father and mother. Next, when you've made up your mind you really would enjoy being a child, decide what kind. That's mostly girl or boy. Study the immigration laws, don't go barging gaily in, for it would give your parents pause if you were born an alien. By now, of course, you should have planned your family, if any. Do you want sisters, brothers, and if you do, how many? You may, if you are still in doubt, skip one step or another, but it just won't do to try without a father and a mother. This one is called A Dream About the Man in the Moon. Into my head, when I went to bed, came a dream as fine as silk, and it took me away, as if in play, to a land as white as milk. The milk grew thin as I looked in. I took another look. The milk was gone, I was alone, by a little crooked brook. The trees were blue, the duck said, "Who?" The owls were taking a swim. A frog said, "Why is your skin so dry?" But I ran away from him. I came to a dew as sweet and new as birthdays on a cake. So I took a drink, and what do you think? The dew became a lake. I drank it dry, and I heard it cry, "I'm going, going, gone." "Thanks for the drink," I said, "I think I had best be going on." I ran till noon and found the moon asleep in the top of a tree. "What? Sleep all day?" I stopped to say, "Why don't you shine?" said he. I shine for the owl, I shine for the bat, I shine for the fox, I shine for the cat. I shine for the rabbits that dance in the dew. What makes you think I should shine for you? I shine for the sea, I shine for the land, I shine for the frogs when they strike up the band, and they sit in the water all in a line. Now you tell me, for whom do you shine? I shine when the night things come out of their den, I shine for the fireflies, I shine then for the dog in the yard and the mice in the hall. When do you shine, if you shine at all? And that is the end of the poetry book. Again, this has been You Read to Me, I'll Read to You by John Ciardi, and I'm Robert Brown. Thanks, guys.